Welcome to our daily newscast where we give you a quick peek at the day's top stories. I'm Julia Manchester in for Jamal Simmons. Washington is celebrating today after the Nationals took home the ultimate title in baseball. The Nats defeated the Houston Astros in Game 7 of the World Series last night, marking the first championship win for the team. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Democrats held a much-anticipated vote on impeachment proceedings in the House earlier today. The House formally voted to formalize an impeachment inquiry. All Republicans voted against the proposal, and 2 Democrats did as well. There's a lot more stories to get into now. This is why you should care. California Congresswoman Katie Hill gave her final floor speech on Capitol Hill earlier today. Hill announced her final congressional address in a tweet on Wednesday, saying she would deliver the speech after voting on impeachment proceedings. The freshman lawmaker who flipped California's 25th district blue last year announced her resignation earlier this week. The House Ethics Committee began an investigation into Hill about a sexual relationship with one of her staffers after nude images were posted online without her consent by conservative media outlets. Hill said that she believes her husband is responsible for the leaked photos. They are in the process of divorcing. In a video released after her resignation was announced, Hill vowed to devote her post-congressional energies to fighting digital exploitation, in this case, revenge porn.
I will fight to ensure that no one else has to live through what I just experienced. Some people call this electronic assault, digital exploitation. Others call it revenge porn. As the victim of it, I call it one of the worst things that we can do to our sisters and our daughters.
So why should you care? Although California Governor Gavin Newsom has yet to set a date for a special election, there have already been at least half a dozen people from both sides of the aisle who want to take Hill's seat. This includes former Trump aide George Papadopoulos, who served in federal prison for making false statements to the FBI in the federal Russia probe. Here's some of Hill's final speech on the House floor.
I'm leaving, but we have men who have been credibly accused of intentional acts of sexual violence and remain in boardrooms, on the Supreme Court, in this very body, and worst of all, in the Oval Office.
In a string of tweets, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey announced the company will ban all political ads starting in November. Dorsey said the ban will cover advertisements about specific candidates and issues. Some advertisements will still be allowed to run, like those encouraging voter turnout. News organizations are currently exempt from the political advertising rule, but the company will be releasing a detailed policy on November 15th. The ban is slated to go into effect later this month. This comes as Twitter's rival Facebook receives heavy criticism over its policy of permissiveness with political ads. The company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, said the public and the media have the power to decide what is true. Political figures from each side have responded to Twitter's ban. In a tweet, Hillary Clinton said Twitter made the right move and questioned what Facebook would do next. Meanwhile, Trump's 2020 campaign manager Brad Parscale referred to the move as, quote, yet another attempt to silence conservatives. So why should you care? Twitter is a giant in the social media space and news sources to countless consumers. Some believe that banning political ads will hurt smaller politicians and favor incumbents, while others believe that if politicians can't hold themselves to task when it comes to telling the truth, then social media platforms should step up. What do you think? Should social media bear a bigger responsibility in fact-checking politicians? Democrats are growing concern over Congresswoman and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard's political aspirations. That's according to my colleague from The Hill, Max Greenwood. Max is here in the studio to tell us a little more about this. Thanks for joining me, friend.
Thanks for having me.
So, Tulsi Gabbard has been a really interesting character, especially in recent weeks in this election. She seems to be getting a lot of, some love from Republicans, really, and it seems from her own party she's being kicked to the curb a bit. Tell us more about this and how she's being viewed among Democrats and the Democratic establishment.
Tulsi Gabbard is a really interesting figure in the Democratic Party. I mean, when she was first elected in 2012, she was really welcomed warmly. She was telegenic. She was a good speaker. She was very much a star in 2012. But, she kind of started to maybe have a more antagonistic relationship with the Democratic establishment in the years that followed. She was notably critical of Barack Obama, over his foreign policy in 2014. And she's had a very complicated relationship with the actual party establishment.
So Tulsi Gabbard has said that she won't launch a third-party run. She's ruled that out. However, there's still this nervousness among Democratic operatives and strategists about this. Why are they so nervous about that?
Well, I think a lot of that criticism, a lot of that speculation is coming, particularly from Hillary Clinton's, her orbit in the Democratic Party, that very establishment-minded wing of the party. But I think the reason that they're concerned is twofold. On one hand, she has been critical of Hillary Clinton and other establishment Democrats in the past. Joe Biden, Mazie Hirono in the Senate, and then, of course, Hillary Clinton herself. So there's already a little bit of a mistrust in Gabbard. On the other hand, there is still this lingering sense that third-party candidates can spoil presidential elections for the Democrats. One example that they repeatedly point to is Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate in 2016. And a lot of Democrats will still argue if Jill Stein wasn't on the ballot in states like Wisconsin, in states like Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Hillary Clinton would have taken those votes. It was a matter of a few thousand votes, and ultimately would have beat Donald Trump. Now, there's a lot of issues with that theory. I don't necessarily buy it. A lot of pollsters don't buy it, but it's certainly part of the narrative that they've built.
Right, and it would seem that given that a third-party run would help Republicans in the presidential race, Republicans are very much in favor of Tulsi launching a third-party, or Congresswoman Gabbard launching a third-party run if she wanted to do so. But I still see this fascination with Tulsi Gabbard on the right, and she seems to be, almost like a bit of a celebrity figure with a lot of Republicans and conservatives. So why do you see that happening? Where does that stem from? I
think a lot of that stems from her foreign policy vision. Mm-hmm. It's much more so in line with, that of President Trump than it was, aligned with Barack Obama, for instance, or Hillary Clinton. She's very non-interventionist. She wants to disentangle the United States from foreign conflicts, something that Donald Trump campaigned on and has made a key part of his presidency. You look at his decision to withdraw from northern Syria. I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it, too, is there is this potential that she could be a spoiler candidate if she decides to launch a third-party bid. Certainly, third-party candidates don't perform that well overall, but it might distract enough to give Donald Trump a slight advantage. And I think we can't ignore that part of it either. There is a political motivation as well.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Max. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Julia.
Thanks for watching Hill TV on YouTube. Be sure to click subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we post new videos. And head to thehill.com for all the latest political news.